Welcome back. We are going to be coming back this week with some more games on Clutch. Sponsored by Duca. Shout out to Duca. So today we're going to be doing Clutch versus Golden Guardians. Clutch actually went 1-1 this weekend. So we see them in last place, but they're not impossibly far from playoffs. But then again, you're looking at quite a climb. Considering you need to be 6th place or higher. So you're looking at these slots and above. So you know that because these 4 positions are tied at a pretty low level, you know that it's likely that 2 of them will go up and 2 will go down, as in 2 will stay where they are. So these will probably be +2, and you're probably going to be looking at entering playoffs with a minimum of 6 games. Assuming that you're a tiebreaker. Assuming like they went +2, -2. How many weeks are left? 1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody gets 8 more games. Okay. You're looking at +4, -4. So you're looking at 8 points. 8 points is probably going to be your minimum playoff points. So Clutch has to at least win 5 of their next games to have a chance at possibly a tiebreaker. And because we're halfway through the split, let's go ahead and see who they play. So Cloud9, TSM, Golden Guardians, Liquid, CLG, FlyQuest, Echofox, 100 Thieves. Okay, so like most of these teams are beatable. Like C9, I don't know about C9. Liquid, I don't know about Liquid. But like it's actually possible that of the 8 points that Clutch can get, I would not be against that in a best of 1 tournament that they could get 6 points. Everyone who's not C9 or Liquid. Because at the end of the split, I mean, Liquid does end up throwing a lot of games at the end of the split, and they probably won't care too much because they're already in playoffs, but I wouldn't expect it. So you could see Clutch with 9 points and like very on edge, 6th place, looking for playoffs. But it is going to be a hard run for this team. But let's go ahead and jump into how this team has made this week work. So 1, we have red side. With red side, you definitely get a little bit of an advantage in draft. So I can go ahead and get the moment without my keyboard trolling me. Okay. So Thresh ban, Callista ban, Galio ban. So Galio definitely opening up onto the support role. Am I in Discord? I am in Discord. That was strange. Galio opening up into the support role as a popular pick. Callista, I find this a strange ban, but in terms of like what Clutch is good at, and they like to get early leads, Callista would definitely make their life a lot easier. And then Bulk and Thresh. So definitely not surprised by Golden Guardians bans, although they are definitely thinking a little bit differently. They aren't just banning standard really strong champions. Clutch is banning standard really strong champions. You got the Urgot, the Lucian. Although the Draven ban might be targeted at Deathly. So this is before New Conqueror. So Draven is pretty good with Old Conqueror. Golden Guardians come out with Yasuo. So we're at that point in the season where flex picks are just insanely crazy, and they make drafts really odd. So Yasuo is a triple flex. Yasuo can go top, mid, bot. Really trying to figure out the best color for this. Clutch Gaming respond with Cassiopeia, who also can go top, mid, bot. And then they go with Alistar. And this actually specifically makes Cassiopeia very disturbing in the bottom lane. Because Alistar engage and then Cassiopeia immobilization, grounding, quite literally, is extremely strong. So it's a good opening for the draft of CG. And it's not necessary that Cassiopeia go bot just by picking Alistar, but it does make that option really, really good. It also takes away the Alistar from the Yasuo. So Golden Guardians go ahead and they say Ornn and Lee Sin. Okay, so I don't work in NA, so I think Ornn's garbage. Even as a support. Like, this is very clearly support Ornn. Only because if you send top Ornn in this meta, you're inting. You are, like, after losing a shield, losing trading, he's just not good. Is his passive and ultimate good? Yes. So you're picking him for his passive and his ultimate, okay. But I still don't like it. The Yasuo pickup, I think, is just to take Lyra off his comfort. I don't like this from Golden Guardians if they want to win, because, frankly, like, Lyra getting Yasuo is so unimportant to CG. It's actually so unimportant. Like, sure, it makes Lyra super comfortable, but later on in the draft, you see Lyra getting a brain-dead champion that's going to be 10,000 times more useful than Lee Sin past the 20-minute mark. So, anyway, Clutch Gaming respond with Vladimir. So these two are a double flex that is really strange. So you've seen Vladimir in the bot, but you probably won't see him in the bot here. You definitely will see him mid-top. And overall, he's just another scaling teamfight champion. So Clutch really, really looking at some teamfight and late game already on the draft. And Golden Guardians, like, they have a little bit of late, they have a little bit of early, they have a Yasuo. I don't have a comment on the Yasuo. So I do like this draft from from Clutch Gaming, and I don't like this draft from Golden Guardians. Clutch Gaming coming out with a Sylas ban, that's fair. They say they don't want Sylas top. Sylas is actually really good into Vladimir. They also ban Malphite, so this a little strange. I think I don't know where the Malphite ban's coming from, or why that's in their head. But I do know that Sylas is pretty good into Vladimir. And that allows Vladimir to go top if he were to want to. So Clutch Gaming is trying to force Vladimir top and trying to force Cassiopeia bot. So they're trying to get what they want, which is good because Clutch Gaming getting what they want and them being comfortable is probably really important. So Olaf and Jace coming out as bans from Golden Guardians. So Olaf is actually really strong. He's pretty decent into Lee Sin. And then Jace is another good flex pick that would be a good split pusher. But I think that we've realized that, like, these two are not going to be playing split pushers. I don't think that Clutch Gaming is just any good with having a dedicated 4-1 split push with a Jace. And I don't think it's very good of an idea to even pick something like Jace when the enemy team has an Ornn, because if you get Jace to split push, it's just not going to mean anything, and Jace means you're probably going to siege as well. So I think this ban is a little bit useless from Golden Guardians. So that's fine. Clutch Gaming say we're going to take the next best jungler on the board. That's pretty brain dead, and then we get more team fight on the map. So you are seeing lots of late game and team fight, and Cassiopeia does show some lane domination. And then you see just like pure scaling. And this is definitely a soak lane. Where Vladimir can soak a lot of pressure and he won't really like lose out on anything. So Golden Guardians go ahead and finish with Victor and Kennen, and then this draft actually becomes so easy mode for Clutch Gaming. So get this, Victor is probably going top, or no. They say we're gonna run these two bot because there's no one really else that you can run with Ornn here. So you're gonna run these two bot. This guy's going mid, and this guy's going top. And then you see this Aurelia pick come out from Clutch Gaming, which is really good. Aurelia goes into Victor, and Aurelia is really strong against Victor because he's immobile. And then Clutch Gaming gets a mid lane pressure lane, and they can use that mid lane pressure to control the jungle a little bit. Really hurts Lee Sin. And that's really good for them to use so much flex picks to make it really hard for Golden Guardians to know like what they need to do in the draft here. Then Vladimir will go ahead and go top against Kennen, and then these two will go bot because we've already talked about how that lane is really good, and then you have a good jungler. So this is definitely a really good draft from Clutch Gaming. Unless I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. This would be played so differently in my region, so like that's fair. Okay, no, these two did go bot. But I don't know why you wouldn't put Aurelia against him. And if you wanted to put Vladimir bot and put Cassiopeia top against Kennen, that's still fine. Because Cassiopeia has a lot of pressure in her lane and can be really good against Kennen. Whereas Vladimir would just farm against Kennen. But I find this really strange from CG. It's not necessarily bad, but they're basically saying that we are going to fight bottom lane and we are going to win. Like this is a very aggressive option. This is not what I would consider your safest option in terms of lane assignments, considering how the draft went. So definitely not your safest option. But I think it's fine. So the idea of Clutch in sending Piglet with Aurelia is that one, Aurelia is actually still pretty good into Yasuo. So just a quick rundown on Aurelia changes. Aurelia got some buffs and nerfs across the board, but her W no longer provides damage resistance against magic damage specifically. So putting her in a magic damage matchup isn't as good as it used to be, even though when she's in a magic damage matchup, she can usually just like one-shot them because they're a backline carry, like a mage. But putting her in a lane like this, she will have a lot more damage than Yasuo, especially in the early game. She just won't have as much natural sustain as Yasuo. But she is allowed to play really aggressive, and if she gets a lead, Yasuo will become almost obsolete, and then Aurelia will become a monster. And Aurelia also just has really good late game scaling. But she's great at snowballing too because of her large mobility and catch potential, and pretty good skirmishing. Extremely good skirmishing, actually. I also just find this a weird assignment from CG because it says that they would prefer instead of playing pressure like this, meaning that their top and bot get pushed in, they are preferring pressure like this, where mid gets pushed in, but their bot and their top are pushing out. And that's perfectly fine. This just actually, I personally think that having mid pressure is going to help you have a lot of pressure around enemy wraiths and your race, and more probably pressure around Scuttle. Can definitely help you do skirmishes and use it as a roaming unit to like roam to other lanes. But and maybe Demonte can get some like really early pressure, like level 1, 2, 3, but like by the time Froggen gets a point or 2 points in his E, like mid lane is gonna be pushing towards Demonte. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get in the game. This is strange, but I'll talk about how GG's comp is going to look. So GG comp, we've already noted that they look like this. They're going to be working off some mid pressure. The problem is that when they're working off this mid pressure, Lee Sin actually can't do anything in mid lane because he can't do anything to Vladimir. So what he's going to be looking for is possibly putting pressure because there's pushing lanes in his top and bottom. One, to try and win the 3v3 and bot early, or a 3v2, and if he can force that, he can make the Aurelia like not obsolete, but way less useful than she should be, and kind of remove the pressure that he'd be losing in the top lane. And then his map would probably look like that, and he would be playing towards topside after that. Or he can just full out play for topside and try and get Cassiopeia behind. And she'll never be obsolete as well, but she is more of a late game DPS champion, so she can ruin her power spike and also ruin her early pressure against Kennen. This is a phase rush Kennen, so I believe that would I believe he's gonna go AP then. Not that I can be completely sure. But yeah, I would run the CG comp differently. I personally like having that map geometry. But then again, it also depends on like the jungler. Ooh, nice. So this was the bet, and I'm gonna call it that. Really, it's called a lottery. We were using proper game theory terms. Piglet and Vulcan they played the lottery in the bottom lane. They said we're gonna take an advantage lane that is a skill matchup, and we're gonna go ahead and try and get a really early lead. They got a level advantage, and they went ahead and they forced the kill. And Ole conserved his flash, because it probably wouldn't have meant anything if he flashed anyway. But that's really good for CG bottom lane, and that kind of removes the ability of Demonte to like go gank bottom, because remember his map looks like this, so he has option to go to side lane and relieve pressure. And Lee Sin is really more about just managing pressure than he is farming, while Sejuani is farming. But if he happens to go bot and Sejuani shows up and Aurelia has an early lead, like she's got a Sheen at 5 minutes, then they're just gonna get dumpstered. And like that's really a shame for GGS, because from the get-go you're already gonna see that their comp has a few issues. Lyra getting some information on contracts. So Lyra's been farming as contracts has been trying to get some pressure out. So Lyra definitely was able to get a level ahead, and he's gonna continue to get a little bit further ahead. Okay, so this is all fine. So Piglet and Vulcan play this really well by dodging the Olite E there. Not that that would have made like a huge difference, but they go ahead and they get the kill, and now Piglet's 2-0. And Haunter comes in, so they say, okay, well, let's sack Vulcan. That's perfectly fine. And we'll sack Aurelia or Flash, because it doesn't mean anything, because they still have Summoner's advantage now in this lane, because you just used all 3 Summoners on GGS, except for Yasuo Flash. And they have Vulcan with both sums, so you're actually gonna see Vulcan and Piglet walk back bottom lane. They're gonna engage again, probably with an Alistar Flash Q. As soon as Piglet hits level 6, and it was really key that Piglet didn't die there, because he would have A, given a shutdown, and B, 2A, he would go ahead and get a little bit of experience behind. What he really wants right now is a level 6 so that they can go ahead and all in. Oh, so Lyra's smelling out a gank. So I just talked about this a little bit earlier. Lyra can put pressure bottom lane, or I mean, contracts can put pressure bottom lane, but if Lyra's there and Vulcan and Piglet are already ahead, it's not going to really mean anything. So Piglet got level 6 and they instant engaged. And Lyra goes in, and Contracts was ready to be there, but honestly, like, Lyra was not even helping that much. Like, it was clear that Deathly has no wind wall. I don't know when he used it. Yeah, I don't know when Deathly used his wind wall, but if they know that Deathly doesn't have wind wall, they do not even need Sejuani to just completely dumpster that lane in a 2v2 with Vulcan both sums, and they don't have sums. So definitely loses Flash there, and now Piglet has insane lead on bot. So just I guess I can't talk about what I wanted to talk about because we have a replay. So next objective for CG is they need to convert this lead into something that's useful. So that's going to be more turret plating, and then Fire Dragon secondary. And I say Fire Dragon secondary meaning that Fire Dragon is actually just not that important compared to getting just more and more and more gold onto Aurelia. Because if you look at the other lanes, like, the other lanes are doing perfectly fine. This is exactly what CG want. Even CS on both lanes, and if they're behind a little bit of CS, it doesn't really matter. They would like to be ahead, and he was ahead on CS in top lane, Huni. But eventually that just changes. Kennen gets some mid game power, especially when he goes AP like this against an AP champion. And Victor actually likes to farm, so this lane in mid just is really just Victor pushing, and Demonte trying to contest the push. Because Demonte has sustain, it's not that bad. But it's gonna look like that like the whole game. It's not really gonna be that interesting. So here we get a replay on a dive, and this is really just CG being able to go monkey mode because they're so fed. And now they've gotten almost all the turret plating on that bottom turret. So really, like, if they can get that last turret plating onto onto Piglet, then Piglet can carry the game like 1v9. And Lyra is like not, he has no need to put pressure anywhere else. We actually saw contracts just before that play happened in bot. He was hovering top and he was looking for Huni, but Huni's getting pushed in and Huni's just trying to play safe because Huni knows that he's going to be a pressure lane and he can't really soak a lot of pressure, meaning that like if he gets ganked, like if he's in a bad position, he's going to get messed up. So he needs to be really careful about what he's doing. All right, let me go ahead and examine what the hell just happened because this is not what Clutch really want. Okay, so Piglet and they're playing super aggressive. Piglet and Lyra are playing really far up. Lee Sin comes in, gets Piglet in the air. Lyra can't really help. Huni and Haunter both teleport bottom. Huni basically one-shots Haunter within an Alistar combo. They get to push bottom. Yeah, that was not what Clutch want. Who got that kill onto? Wait, Ornn got the Aurelia kill? That's so sad for GGS. Like, that's 600 gold, or possibly more, that they got onto Ornn instead of getting onto Yasuo or Lee. And if they get that onto Yasuo, then it's a completely different game at that point. But Yasuo only gets assist gold that's split between all of the people getting an assist. So Yasuo gets plus 150 and Lee gets plus 150. And then you see Ornn with plus 600. That's actually depressing for GGS. And on top of that, it was only an even trade, so CG gets to keep tempo. But in all seriousness, sorry, they don't need to be doing this without Vulcan either here or here. Like if Vulcan's here, Vulcan can actually stop the Lee Sin combo, and they can probably win a 4v4 really easily. And then they get this turret, and then they can full back or they can do whatever they want. But Vulcan being over here is really strange. Really strange. Because if Huni teleports here or here, and they've already killed contracts, and they're peeling back, and then they're 4 here versus a split. Ornn and Yasuo coming from this direction, Kennen coming from this direction. Sure, it's actually pretty good geometry for GGS, but it's also 3v4, and they're not fed. So yeah, not ideal from Clutch. A little bit ballsy. I think this has to do with them being ahead, and they're not really used to being ahead. Like Clutch, definitely. We've talked about how Clutch needs to be proactive as a team, and like this is a draft where they're just allowed to do whatever they want on the bottom side of the map from like minute 3. So it's really strange to see actually Clutch succeeding, since we know that they want to be proactive, but they've just not been being proactive. So now that they're being proactive, they got really excited. That's a good way to put it. They got really excited, and they made a little bit of an error because they were playing as if there was no issue that could possibly hurt them. But that actually could have been worse than it was. They did not get punished to the maximum. It's another replay? Jesus Christ. So much action. Stop giving me replays. I want to see pathing. Okay, so Piglet getting solo gold. Piglet is huge right now. GGS trying to respond with Rift Herald. Those turrets are worth 500 gold now. Wait, why did this... That was a little weird. I wouldn't have let that happen. Okay, so like, CG's at a point where they do not need to keep being super proactive, but they are allowed to skirmish with Piglet if they're given the opportunity. And when I say skirmish, I mean like 2v2, 3v3. And it's possible that they set up a 1-3-1 with Piglet as one of the split pushers. But I don't think that it would actually be very useful at this point in the game because the 1-3-1 is supposed to be a pressure model. And what they would be doing is pressuring these 3 lanes. So you would probably put Aurelia top and Vlad bot, or possibly Cassiopeia bot, and the other one would go mid with everybody else. And what happens is that Alistar Sedge can rotate to either side lane when they feel like they can make a proactive play. But if they put high pressure, I'd prefer Vlad in the bottom lane, but he can't really push against like everyone. He can push against some people just because he has some wave clear and he's very safe. But he can't perma push on the side lane. But if they get pressure onto the tier 2 turret, then Aurelia or anyone will take the tier 1 turret in top lane for free. And then they can do the exact opposite. Instead of roaming from mid to a side lane to make a play, they will roam from side lanes to mid to make a play and take that tower in the mid lane. And once they clear outer towers from GGS, it actually gets a lot easier because then they start to play in the tier 2 corridors. And if they can play in the tier 2 corridors and keep up vision control, then they can actually get a lot of skirmishes. And some turrets are really easy to take, such as the tier 2 bottom tower. So that is one option for them. But remember that they can probably scale really well. They do scale really well. And the longer they wait to really strike, the stronger they'll be. And it's actually up to GGS to be the proactive party in this game. So we actually are seeing GGS look for this Windrake. Will they do something though? They just lost mid push. So very hard for them to actually be proactive. It's not very easy for GGS to win a fight, but I'm not going to say that it's impossible that they win a fight. Victor's pretty good into Cassiopeia. They just need to get a good pick. A good setup. That was not their good setup. Yeah, this game's over. So Ole frontlines with Orin ult and tries to make sure he can hit it party. This is actually really good positioning from CG. This is their 1 flank. This is their 2 flank. And then they have their primary DPS and then their 2 tanks. So this is a little bit of an awkward positioning because they were on the dragon, so I'll accept that. But primary, I should really just PC. Primary DPS, access to 2 tanks, and then you have flanker, and then flanker. And so this is all converging onto this zone. So, you know, you play football, you play soccer, you can get the idea. So even though the Ornn ult will actually go onto the primary carry and the tanks, it won't mean a whole lot because the flankers are going to be able to get the flank for free. And if I see correctly, Huni actually makes a good flash ult here. And Vladimir's flank actually helps one-shot Hauntzer before Hauntzer gets his ult off. So this fight actually would have gone a lot better for GGS if Hauntzer can just press R and Zhonya's. I'm pretty sure he has stopwatch. Although you're still looking at a Piglet who ults and misses, which is insane. But the only difference that you'd see in this fight is Huni would probably die, or he wouldn't die, but he would be very, very low in health, and the tanks would be really low in health, and they might be killable. But with a Piglet just entering the fight now, there's no way that GGS actually wins the fight with the geometry that they set up. Because they're looking at a dive carry, frontline tank, a mage, and a dive carry. So what they need is to try and get picks, because they do have picking tools. They have R for picking tool, and they have R for picking tool, but they do not have anything that will help them, which will help them team fight front to back. They are not front to back. At least not until Lee Sin's obsolete and he turns into a tank, and then Olay is actually a tank. And then they can have Hauntzer move in and fight front to black like that, and look for a ult with Ornn to possibly get Yasuo in there, and they can try to play front to back with the wind wall. But at this point in the game, they're just not capable of doing that. They need more items. And if we look up to leading up to this fight, like, you generally would want Yasuo to have Infinity Edge also before you're able to do front to back here. And possibly, I guess you're getting Banshee's Veil on Victor. You might want Banshee's Veil on Victor. And then front to back actually gets pretty insane. I don't know what you're building on Kennen here, but anything that helps burst and causes a really big distraction. And he doesn't have stopwatch actually. So this stopwatch would make this play a lot different. And also just playing it differently would make this play a lot different. So GGS has mistakes all across the board in how they could optimize the situation. On top of the fact that they're risking a really big loss, so they could lose team fight. So how about, let's just say, for example, they got wiped. So they got wiped, 1,500 gold plus, I mean, it would be 750. So you're looking at 2250 gold to CG and 0 to GGS. And the best thing that can happen for GGS in this fight is probably 2 kills. The rest of CG runs away, and a Wind Dragon. So you plot all that, and you're really thinking to yourself, well, risk is really not percentage chance of success here, because execution, you want to be sure about your execution before you make any kind of play that you know that the stakes are really high, meaning that you can lose a lot more than you're going to win. So this play by GGS is also just very questionable. So these two champions, Cassiopeia and Vladimir, are going to scale really hard late game, but in the mid game, they're going to be at this point where they're going to be strong, but they're not going to be broken. And if they were to farm for several minutes more in the game, get 2 item spikes, then Aurelia not getting kills for such a long period of time will feel less fed. She will feel, and by feel I mean her relevant damage will not be as high. Because the amount of gold advantage that she has right now will feel much smaller if that is a smaller percentage of the available gold or available resources that both the teams have. So CG win the game by messing up bottom lane, drafting insurance. So this is a model that we want to look for CG. We want to see aggressive bottom lane. We want to see insurance. So this is something that we haven't seen from CG. If we think about all the VOD reviews that I've done on this team, Piglet was not the star member of the team. Like he was getting Ezreal picked for him every game, and he wasn't getting any resources, and he wasn't able to carry any games because he was pretty much obsolete because the team couldn't make any really good plays together in the mid game, or they were jumping the gun, or they would make mistakes that cost them a lot more than they were able to hold on to. But Piglet was never someone who was given a lot of resources, and this is a game where Lyra was just feeding all of his resources into two things: farming and making sure bottom lane is okay. You never really see Lyra hovering bot or mid or top or mid. He's only hovering bot to make sure that he's sniffing out contracts. He's trying to figure out where contracts is. If he keeps track of contracts, then he goes ahead and hovers bot. And if contracts tries to make a move, then he counters it because they have the advantage. And if the bottom lane wasn't on something so aggressive, and I'm happy with the performance that Piglet and Vulcan are able to bring. If they weren't on something that was so aggressive and didn't get that early lead, then it would be a lot more dangerous for those 3v3s. But it still wouldn't be impossible for him to make the same play style. It wouldn't be ridiculous. Okay, Huni getting dived. Piglet coming in a little late. Piglet was within vision when he was standing in the jungle there. I'm pretty sure he was standing within a blue ward. But that's fine. Remember, CG not mandatory for them to play aggressive. Okay, so CG are resetting the map. They've got a 1-3-1 going with Aurelia in the mid lane. And they're converging on top river to make sure that they have vision on top river. They want to control that zone. And they want to control the push in mid so that controlling that zone becomes easy. If the push in bot, Huni wants to make sure that he has enough vision so that it's not easy for him to get instantly killed. Go into Ole, and they are able to get the pick. So, very nice that you see picking tools from CG. And they're actually able to get utilized because they have a real team comp where they have enough CC and quick skirmishing damage that they're able to utilize any kind of skirmishing tools, or they're able to utilize any kind of pick tools that they've drafted. Unfortunate. Okay, so this is pretty standard. CG go ahead and they go for Baron. Vulcan and Piglet peel off Baron to make sure that we secure Baron. Cassiopeia, when she does Baron, uses all of her mana. Her mana pool is not very big, or well, it is big, but she is a DPS champion. She has to use 55 mana every time she uses E, maybe more depending on the level of the ability. I don't remember what they left that at. So they know that they have to get out of the zone as fast as possible, and they're willing to trade any of their resources so that they can make sure that they can conserve Baron buffs. And they did it all off this one pick. So GGS say, okay, well, we need to force them out of mid lane. We need to make sure that they're not able to wave clear, and we need to make the biggest play that we can make right now. So they force them out of mid lane. They keep the push on mid, and this is really standard. They get mid tower. They even use a teleport in. Froggen's able to pick up a kill here. And then they force on mid tier 2. And they try to take mid tier 2. And this is their salvation of losing Baron. So they get like a plus 800, maybe plus 950 gold. Just about. Even though CG just got a plus 1950 gold, if you count the kill, the assist, and the Baron. Although Orn's died a lot, it might just be like 1700. I never am exact on that stuff because it's very irrelevant to be exact. Or at least not unless you want to look at something where it actually matters. It's not going to usually matter. Okay, so CG go ahead and they set up 4-1. Might just rotate onto bot. Give red buff to Piglet. Have Demonte on bot. You see them rotating towards bot. Huni needs a blue buff. So you see that there is a blue buff for CG on their side. So in order for them to really keep all the pressure, Huni does need that. Piglet tries to make an engage. Ornn ult comes out for disengage, but Ornn ult is not able to save the mid tower. Contract goes in for a possible push off. He is punished for it, although CG does lose Vladimir ult. Huni's trying to conserve mana, and they're trying to get the siege to get mid tower, because if they can break the base, then they're doing really well. They peel off. I think they're going to get Huni a blue buff, because it's really important that Huni gets a blue buff. Huni also just got Banshee's Veil. Very clean. So Baron buff is 30 seconds. I would have liked to see a little bit more. If they organized that better and gave Huni blue buff before that ever started, they could have gotten mid and bot and possibly mid inhib turret. But they really needed to, from the get-go, give Huni a blue buff. Even if he had to be inefficient in order to get the blue buff to then be more efficient later. Because having that limiter on Huni's usability, like him being able to abuse his spells and DPS, not only for wave clear but for extended fighting. Because if you get an extended fight with Cassiopeia and run out of mana, you're going to be in big trouble. Then they could have punished GGS more. But these are just really little things that don't matter too much because CG is not in a rush to win the game. Alright, that was useless. Okay. So this is definitely a CG look, like this looks like a CG hiccup from the beginning. So they say that they want, before we get there, that they want to, and this is really obvious. They've already got the top lane pushed, and they've rotated Cassiopeia towards mid, but Cassiopeia is not there yet. And then Vladimir actively walks out to make sure that bottom lane gets pushed, and what they're going to do is they're going to rotate and take this tower. So this is a really standard call. So the idea behind what's happening is fine. But Piglet does not need to walk here. He can just go around. They do not control this zone. Like this is like their gray zone. Like I should use highlighter for this. This is the gray zone for CG right now, because if they have any pick tools, they will use them the second they can, so that they're able to gain any kind of advantage and relieve any kind of pressure. That way their chance at winning the game is easier. Now, it's not a critical time, because anyone who dies right now will be alive and ready for Baron. But this is about when you would start setting up vision if you were playing extremely standard for Baron and Dragon, whichever one you were going to control. So Piglet doesn't need to walk here. This is definitely a Piglet mistake. Maybe he thought he was okay. But he was not ready for the pick, or GGS willing to use a lot of resources on him. And sure, they used a ton of resources on him, but like also following up Piglet getting picked with a whole bunch of other fighting, probably not that necessary. Yeah, Vulcan made a mistake here. Vulcan is supposed to stay on top of Piglet and make sure that nothing stays on top of him. So with just Q and W being short range, he doesn't want to do anything that isn't going to be secure. So Vulcan definitely could have saved Piglet's life, and this would have turned into nothing. It actually might have turned into just them rotating bot and getting bot turret. So I will say that was a mistake. This play by Demonte just is kind of irrelevant. Like, him walking up and ulting is just so irrelevant, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, it just takes away any pressure he might have in trying to get bottom turret. But it's okay. CG are going to reset, they're going to get pink wards, and they're going to go to the objective that they want. Now, if I were CG, I'd probably try and gain mid pressure, then look at the corridors here and here. And if they can get vision control on these corridors, what's going to happen is that they're going to have a map that looks like this with vision control, and then they're able to get Dragon if they want to. Not with everybody, but with just like a couple people, like Cassiopeia can go grid it. And it'll make it really easy for them to get Baron after that. Level 16 Vladimir is very scary. That just looked terrifying. So they got vision on one corridor, and they didn't even really have to do a whole lot afterwards. Now they can get free Baron, because now there's nothing that can be considered secure from the side of GG. And GGS trades bot turret and dragon because there's nothing else for GGS to do. I feel bad for GGS because they're playing extremely standard, but their composition is actually just awkward. And the draft was really hard for them, but they didn't prioritize anything that was particularly good either. Like prioritizing Ornn as a support pick, prioritizing Yasuo for bottom lane. Like maybe Yasuo was a flex pick, but they just defaulted him bottom lane blind pick when there were like tons of things open. Like remember that useless ban that GG had? So now with the second Baron buff, CG just break base with minions. They didn't push other lanes. So they're either trying to end with like an engage here or they're trolling me. No, they're just trolling. I think this was like them just not really caring about setting up other things because this is the primary objective. But they could have spent like 15 seconds like getting someone to push top lane on their way towards mid, and they would have lost 20 seconds of their Baron, but they'd still have plenty left to get mid tower. Piglet just lost a bunch of HP. Cassiopeia is going bot, so this split is going to be really hard for GGS to deal with. It's going to make the damage on Piglet a little bit irrelevant. So GGS has two options. One, they try to force 5v4, and they try to win the fight before Huni finishes teleport. Or they do nothing and they get choked to death by pressure and lose. And from what I understand, they're choosing the latter. They're choosing the do nothing and get choked to death strategy. Just more boring. More boring to watch. And then like it's not like do nothing. It's just like they want CG to make a mistake, but CG's in a point where like they have a lot of freedom. So it's very unlikely that they make any kind of large mistake. CG's also playing extremely safe and ending the game, which is fine. Like you can do that on a late game comp. Like you can back every play, every rotation, just to make sure like, hey guys, let's not fuck this up. And like this is really important for CG, so I definitely respect that. So now they just end through bottom lane, and GGS is going to make an engage because it's just unnecessary for CG to end. The reason why CG is not doing anything in terms of like fighting is because they don't have to. They're just strangling GGS with pressure, and if GGS decides not to do anything, because if GGS engages, they lose, unless CG makes some kind of horrible mistake. So it's like, but if CG engages, and they could mess it up, and then it turns into an opportunity for GGS. And but what GGS doesn't realize is it's not necessary for CG to engage. What's necessary is that they're able to find an error even if there isn't one. If they want to win the game, of course. But I don't think that they're going to be able to do that. Because now that they have 2 inhibs down, they should have all ended and lost the game before this. That they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. Yeah, Lee Sin just goes in and gets punished. He was just going in on some damage. Not a single person wanted to do anything. This is really depressing looking. This is definitely a team that is not confident. So this is good because I do not expect CG to lose to GGS on the second round, because this is the this is week 5. Or was this week 6? This has to be week 5. Yeah, it's week 5. So this is the last week of the first round of the split. And I doubt that GGS will be at a point in which they can beat CG the next time if they look like this. Not that CG is always looking great, but GGS seem to have like some of the same issues that Clutch have been showing, and that has a lot to do with like not being able to be proactive. Like look really closely at what happens here. Contract says, "Hey, we have to do something," or maybe he's not. Maybe he's just being stupid. I don't know. Froggen misplaces his W, and then they just leave him, and they don't capitalize anywhere. You don't see Orn ult, you don't see anything, and that's really bad. They should have done something a lot earlier. So like next time you see GGS versus Clutch, I honestly expect the same thing. Maybe Clutch won't have such a like really good draft, because we are not, super expectant of that, but I think it'll still be a win for Clutch. At least that game. Yeah, they should have engaged here. It's just like, and it's not even that they have a good chance of winning, it's that they have to take the best chances they can get. And the best chances they can get suck. So like they just have to work with what they got. Anyway, this is a good game from Clutch. I'm definitely proud of Clutch with their draft and their ability to play for Piglet, because I'm really happy, and if they keep playing for Piglet, I would be much more confident in Clutch being able to go ahead and maybe secure a playoff spot. But it definitely relies on whether or not the team is willing to play around Piglet. Because if you notice, like Damonte did not have that much of a role this game, and Huni had somewhat of a role, but he was really just on a late game DPS champion. Like he was the insurance, and Damonte was the insurance. And they said, okay, we're gonna give all the early game power to Piglet. We're gonna let him be the mechanical monster that he can be. And that ended up working out, and Vulcan was a great support for that. He knew when he could take an advantage. So they built a lead. They had a support jungler for them so that they could win 3v3, and then they just had insurance in other lanes. Like great model for a team that hasn't been doing so well, is to rely on some talent that they have that's really old talent, and that can perform when given resources, and I really think that giving Piglet resources is a good idea. Anyway, thank you for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe or leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know what you think, or if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.